I told you that you have a remote control for your own body, a way to dial up your immune system, sharpen your focus, and even shut down pain and anxiety on command. And what if I told you that remote control has been quite literally right under your nose your entire life? Today, we're diving into the science of our own breath, a power that ancient traditions knew all about, but modern science somehow forgot. So, how did one man rediscover it, and how can we all start using it?
All right, I want you to picture this. You're at the North Pole. It's just a vast, white nothingness, and the temperature is a staggering minus 20 degrees Celsius. This isn't just cold. This is the kind of cold that feels like it's actively trying to erase you from existence.
And look, science is super clear on this. For a normal person, without any gear, you've got about 30 minutes before you're done. And frankly, that's being generous. In reality, your nerves feel like they're on fire within seconds. Your muscles freeze solid, and eventually, your heart just gives up.
But then one man shows up and decides to just shatter all those rules. He's out there in this frozen wasteland, running. And what's he wearing? No fancy gear, no thermal layers, just a pair of shorts. And get this, he wasn't some mystical guru or a superhero. He was a mailman.
He ran for 2 hours and 16 minutes. Yeah, you heard that right. Doctors were completely floored. Biologists were just scratching their heads. How on earth was this possible? Well, this man's name is Wim Hof, and his story isn't really about breaking records. It's about a man who was completely broken and found an unbelievable power buried inside himself.
So, to really get how he did it, we've got to rewind a bit. Because his journey to becoming the Iceman, it didn't start because he wanted to be famous. It started with an unimaginable, soul-crushing loss. Back in 1995, Wim's wife, Olaya, who had been suffering from a deep depression, tragically took her own life. And just like that, Wim was left alone. A grieving widower with 4 kids to raise. He started slipping into that same darkness himself, and nothing, no medicine, no therapy, seemed to help.
You know, there's that famous book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it explains how deep trauma isn't just a memory in your head, it gets physically stored in your body, right down to the cellular level. Wim was feeling this. He was dying on the inside. So in total desperation, he turned to the one thing that could match the pain he felt inside, the freezing cold water.
And the crazy part is the cold didn't hurt him more. It was the only thing that could silence the unbearable noise in his head. Without even realizing it, he had stumbled onto an ancient secret, a way to use his breath to take back the controls of his own body. He didn't find a cure. He found a command center.
So, what is this command center? How does it actually work? This is the really cool part, because this is where modern science is finally catching up to what Wim Hof and thousands of years of ancient wisdom already knew. It all comes down to something called the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS. Now, for the longest time, science textbooks said this system was completely 100% automatic. You can't tell your heart to beat slower or order your immune system to fight a virus. It just does its thing. Or so we thought. The easiest way to get it is to think of your body like a car. It's got 2 gears. The sympathetic system, that's the accelerator. It's for fight or flight, for stress, for action. It floods your body with adrenaline. And the parasympathetic system, well, that's the brake. It's for rest and digest, for calm, for recovery. The big problem is most of us are driving around with our foot jammed on the accelerator all day long. And here is where things get absolutely mind-blowing. What our top neuroscientists are just now figuring out with all their fancy equipment, ancient yogic traditions had mapped out thousands of years ago. They knew that your breath is the gear shift. They even knew that breathing through your right nostril, what they called the Surya Nadi or sun channel, hits the accelerator. And breathing through your left nostril, the Chandra Nadi or moon channel, well, that hits the brake. Incredible. Okay, so controlling your mood is one thing. That's pretty cool. But what about something that's supposed to be truly automatic, like your immune system? Yeah, this is where the story goes from remarkable to absolutely unbelievable. So in 2014, scientists at a Dutch university decided to put Wim to the ultimate test. They were going to inject him with an E. coli endotoxin, a component of the bacteria, to provoke a strong immune response. The question was simple, but the implications were massive. Could a human being consciously fight off an infection on demand? Now, for any normal person, this injection would mean high fever, violent vomiting, headaches, the whole deal within minutes. But as the scientists watched, Wim just sat down and started his breathing technique. And the result? Nothing. No fever, no sickness, absolutely zero symptoms. On his command, his body neutralized the bacteria before it even had a chance to start a fight. The scientist's first reaction was, okay, this guy is a 1 in a billion genetic freak. But Wim just said no. Anyone can do this. So he trained 12 perfectly ordinary people for just a few days. They all got the same injection. And every single one of them had the exact same result: no sickness. This is the crucial takeaway. It's not a genetic gift, it's a trainable skill. And this is the method they used. It's surprisingly simple. First, a round of 30 or 40 deep power breaths. Then you exhale fully and just hold your breath for as long as is comfortable. And finally, you take one big recovery breath in and hold for about 15 seconds. Just 3 rounds of that. That's all it took for them to train their immune systems. But you don't need to be in a science lab facing down an infection to use this power. Let's look at a few simple, practical tools you can use every single day to change your state of mind and body right now. Okay, here's a wild one for instant focus. Let's say you're at your desk feeling that afternoon brain fog. First, check which of your nostrils feels more open. If it's your left, your body is in brake mode. To switch gears to the accelerator for focus, just take your fist or a water bottle, whatever, and press it firmly into your left armpit. I know, it sounds insane, but that pressure hits a nerve, and within a few minutes, it'll switch your dominant nostril to the right, kicking your logical, focused brain into high gear.
And what about those moments of panic or high anxiety? U.S. Navy SEALs use a technique for this. The rule is simple. Make your exhale twice as long as your inhale. So just try it. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, and then a long, slow, controlled exhale for 8 seconds. That long exhale sends a direct signal to something called the vagus nerve, basically telling your entire body, hey, the danger is past, stand down. It works like an instant kill switch for panic.
And this principle applies to so much more. If you have poor digestion, use that armpit hack to activate your right accelerator nostril before you eat to really get your digestive fire going. For better sleep and deeper healing, yogis say you actually want that same right nostril active. And for random aches and pains, sometimes just forcing a switch in your dominant nostril can change your body's whole energy circuit and bring relief.
But as you can probably tell, this is about way more than just life hacks. It's a fundamental shift in how we look at our own lives and our own potential.
The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said it best. Through his tragedy, Wim Hof didn't just learn how to survive. He learned how to truly live, how to take control. And he proved that we are not just slaves to our genetics or our circumstances. The remote control is right here.
You know, ancient yogic texts say our lifespan isn't measured in years, but in a finite number of breaths. And if you look at nature, it's a fascinating idea. A tortoise, taking maybe 4 breaths a minute, can live for centuries. A rabbit, with its frantic, rapid breathing, is gone in just a couple of years. It really makes you think. The slower and deeper our breaths, maybe the slower our own clock ticks. So, this leaves us all with a pretty profound question. We are each given a certain number of breaths in this life. You can spend them quickly, shallowly, in a state of constant stress and reaction, or you can choose to become conscious of them, to deepen them, to control them, and in doing so, take control of your mind, your health, and your world. The choice is yours.